So there's a couple things that are going to make a huge difference when it comes to the performance of these shop vac vacuums. So I'm going to give you some pro tips on how to get much better performance, save a couple bucks with that performance. And then in terms of your health, we are going to go over the one thing that you absolutely cannot do with these vacuums. Tip number one, use a vacuum bag. It actually makes a huge difference. If you take a look at this Festool vacuum, with a bag that is 2/3 full of sawdust, it is sucking at 126 CFM at the end of the hose. You take that same amount of sawdust, empty it out of the bag, suck it up with no bag and just the filter. By the time you finish sucking up that sawdust, it is down to 30 CFM. It is just choking the vacuum up. With the rigid vacuum, the dynamics are very similar. And the other nice thing with vacuum bags, it's gonna drastically increase the lifespan of your filter. Instead of beating that thing up and cleaning it off every single time you empty the vacuum, it's going to be more like a gentle clean every 15 to 20 uses. In my experience, the filters are pretty much going to last forever. Tip number two, you remember when I told you to use vacuum bags? They're a huge ripoff. So if you want to save some money with the vacuum bags for the rigid vacuum, this bag here, you buy it at the Home Depot, $15 Canadian per bag. This one here, pretty much the exact same bag, no difference in performance. Buy it off Amazon, $4.50 a bag. That is a huge savings. With the Festool bags, these are about $12 Canadian a piece. The nice thing here is this is a nice kind of cloth fabric material. You can reuse them. When the bag gets full, cut open the end, throw on a dust mask, take it outside, empty it into a garbage can. I'll shake out the bag and then I'll blow it out through the little dust port with my Makita blower to seal it back up. Roll up the end, I'll do it 3 times and then I'll use these medium-sized binder clips to hold it together. You pop that back in the vacuum. I've used this bag over 15 times, drywall dust, sawdust, you name it. It is gonna perform just as good as a brand new bag. That's a great way to save money with the Festool vacuum bags. So tip number 3, if your vacuum came with a skinny, unflexible, crappy hose, upgrading the hose to a bigger diameter, more flexible hose will blow your mind. It's gonna be way better to use. And let's take this example here in terms of performance with dust collection. If I were to upgrade this 1 1/8" hose that the Festool vacuum came with to a bigger 1 7/8" diameter hose, I'm gonna get 45% more wind speed at the point of dust collection here on this miter saw. And if you do need a hose, I highly recommend this big rigid hose. It's super flexible. It's got a great diameter on it. There is a knockoff version on Amazon, pretty much the same hose, fraction of the price. I will link that in the vacuum bags in the description. If you can find stuff local, that is always a nice way to go. If you can't, there is some pretty good deals on Amazon. Tip number 4, this is a big one for your health. If you have one of these rigid vacuums or you've purchased a consumer level vacuum, 9 times out of 10, it's gonna come with one of these cheap white single pleat filters. The thing about these filters is they're an absolute death trap. They do not work whatsoever to take that fine dust out of the air. You take a look at this rigid vacuum with the single pleat white filter installed, sucking up some sawdust. The air shooting out the back of the vacuum is just, the fine particulate is growing exponentially. It's just doing a terrible job of keeping that out of the air. It's gonna put a fine layer of dust over your whole workspace. More importantly, it's not gonna be good at all for your lungs. So do yourself a favor, get yourself one of the fine dust filters. They're usually blue in color. They have 3 layers instead of 1. They're gonna do a much better job at keeping the tiny particles from shooting out the back of the vacuum. If you're working with concrete dust at all, you'd probably wanna go to the green 5-layer HEPA filters. And if you're worried about clean air in your garage shop type setting, I'm currently working on a video right now that's looking at the effect that air cleaners will have on the air quality. I found out some pretty interesting things. If you want to check out that video, think about subscribing to the channel. If we're in the future and I've already made the video, that will be right here. Nope, that was terrible. That was so bad. Oh, having fun.